Hey, this is Scott Darby Bonsai. Today we're taking a look at this Vivitar DVR922 action camera. The standout feature is it has two different screens on there. They do sell at Walmart. As far as I can tell, it only sells at Walmart. It was half price on eBay. I'm going to try this out today with these two different action cameras. I have this Monba ME10 that I've had for a long time, another generic action camera, and this Casio EX-FR10. This was another deal that I found on Amazon actually. It's pretty unusual. It splits into two pieces, so you've got a wireless screen with a touch screen on there and just the standard camera unit on the top. These two cameras are discontinued as far as I can tell, so you probably won't be able to find these around, but I wanted something to compare to this Vivitar, so these are it. I took these three out to do a lot of testing with the different video modes and also the photos. So let's check those out. Three different action cameras. Let's do a quick jog here. How they do. My main focus will be on the Vivitar action camera. It's the one you can find around, especially at Walmart. It depends on your country and who knows. But I was curious about it with the two screens. It's very easy to switch between the second screen. There's just a button on the side that's used for Wi-Fi. You press that and it will switch. You can tell right off the bat this screen is pretty low quality. It's got low contrast. The viewing angles are pretty poor, but it's on there and it's a nice feature. Just press it again, it'll switch to the back screen. At that point you can see it's working there. You have the power button on the top, and you also have the button for taking photos or starting the video. And you've got the one on the side with a micro USB port, and that's it. The battery on the bottom is also where the micro SD card goes in there. I was hoping the batteries would be the same between these two different cameras because they're pretty generic, but that wasn't the case. They have a similar pin layout, but the shape and the position of the three pins are different. So I'm not really sure what type of battery this action camera takes, but I'm gonna at least let you see that battery so maybe you'll know what it is. So we're in a darker area, there's some echo like I said, but interesting to try out. I'm gonna actually do a quick jog in here. This bopping around a little bit. Not sure why you doing that. Got this 1, 2, 3. This works like a lot of generic action cameras. You have the main button that'll switch between the certain modes on the back screen or the front screen. They basically work interchangeably. Inside the settings, you can see that this camera is pretty limited. It does have various resolutions. So this goes up to 4K 30 frames a second, 2.7K at 30 frames a second, and 1080p at 30 frames a second. It does a 1080p at 60 frames a second. It also does the 720p at 120 frames a second. I did test out the other action cameras at those resolutions when they supported it. The Casio only has 1080p 30 frames a second, however the Monba had most of the modes besides the 4K was 25 frames a second instead of 30. 60 frames a second. Well, the 60 frames a second should be better for any type of action, motion, moved around. You see how the audio sounds. Go. I'm going to pick the camera. So, see how it is. Oh man. Set that down for a second. We'll do some running tests. My main issue with all of these cameras is audio quality straight from the camera itself. I'll show you a few clips where you just hear it straight from the camera without any type of adjustment. I'm going to take the camera. So, see how it is. Doing some test 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. Of course, the Casio is actually the one with the microphone on the front. Other two do not have a microphone on the front. After looking at the results of the 3 different action cameras, I do think the Vivitar has a better image at 1080p 30 frames a second. However, all the other modes are really, it's kind of up for grabs because image quality and video modes on these are pretty low. Okay, now we're doing 2.7K, which is the same on the 2 action cameras here. This one, of course, 1080p 30 frames a second, that's all it does. First, we're gonna do inside, so I don't have to mess with the M50. So hold it steady for a second. Walk a little bit. 2.7K, 30 frames a second. One thing I should mention is that the Vivitar is able to act as a webcam if you connect it to a PC, so I did try that out with the USB cable and it seemed to work okay. However, it goes at 720p in that case. So you can see in LBS it actually looks pretty decent with the image quality. Not too bad with delay. It's nice. So this is the 720p frame. I don't know if it has autofocus. It's got auto exposure. See what the screens look like. Tip. It's decently cold. Let's get some nice resolution shots. I don't know. I do a quick jog. The 2. The one thing that the cheap action cameras do not have is good stabilization. Settings on the Vivitar are pretty limited. You can record or disable sound for whatever reason that's on there, but you can't actually turn off the beeping. It does have time lapse, it has loop recording, it has a slow motion screen. With the slow motion you can do 1080p 60 frames a second or 720p 120 frames a second. Alright, both of these cameras actually do have 120 frames a second at 720p, so we'll try that out. Just hold it steady for a second. Now this is really going to show quality in a darkened area with the high frames a second. At that high frames a second, each frame gets less light, but it is 720p, so can't really expect too much. I'm going to do some photos with this setup real quick, just see how they are. 16, 12, and I honestly can't remember what, does not say. Whatever. I did try out the app on this camera. It was decently featured, so if you're looking for remote videography with a small action camera like this, this is actually not bad. It has most of the features inside the camera itself through the app, which is nice. I should mention all of these cameras did come with a bunch of accessories. However, they're pretty standard throughout action cameras, so you'll get a bunch of little connectors, doodads with the main bracket, and then a water resistant and waterproof bracket, and then a bunch of those GoPro style mounts. So if I'm going to do some type of stationary shot, I might use this, but I could tell with all of the video from here, it has a very slow readout on the sensor. You could see some wobbliness in the frame, so in action situations. I don't recommend any of these cameras. If you're doing stationary shots, you don't need audio. I think the Vivitar can potentially work out for you, but still you want to look at the quality and see if it's there for you. That said, I think they can be fun to mess around with. That was a look at the Vivitar DVR922 dual screen camera. Again, it's decent, but still I would definitely not pay full price for this. Even what I paid, around half, is not great, but if you're looking for something fun to mess around with and toss around, I mean, it's not a bad option. So, Scott Photography Bonsai, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. That helps me out a lot. Likes and shares help out a lot as well. Thanks again.